Hello and welcome to the Design Make Play Show. I'm Sarah and I'm an illustrator and designer at Zen Maker Lab. And for today's segment, we're going to talk about storyboards and how we can use them in video games, animations, and movies. So let's get started. So what are storyboards? Storyboards are visual representations of stories that are broken up frame by frame, and we can use these whether we're making movies, video games, even for commercials. So we could be selling a product, or it could be a user experience for creating an app. So they're really helpful when you're creating things like that. So let's dive into that, and I'll show you some examples of how we can use them. So in movies, here's an example from a movie called Alien, and this example is just showing how a storyboard is drawn out, and this one is quite highly developed. They've shown every single one, like scene by scene. It's quite flushed out. I would say you don't actually have to develop them to this high resolution, but it's up to you. And you can add little notes to your frame by frame if it helps you with like words, page numbers, and script. And so here's another example from Kung Fu Panda, and this one is of course it's all animated, so for animators they really need to do every single step of the way to show how the characters are interacting with each other. And then this one is from Transformers, and this one's quite again developed and flushed out, and just showing how the movie's kind of gonna look. So every person who does this has a different perspective, so you can do it to your liking. And this one's a fun one because it's from Jurassic Park. So I thought it was cool to see, this is the beginning stages of how they're going to create the movie, and then it helps them get an idea of how each frame's gonna look when they actually make it. So this one is from the scene when the raptor's coming out of the wall, which is super fun to look at. And it's quite highly detailed, and it has some notes that are added in here. And then this one's from a video game now. So again, they're quite similar to how movies are done, but this one's from Super Mario, and it's quite rough, but you still get the idea of how each frame is gonna look when they're animating it for the video. And this one's called Major League Baseball. I've never played this video game myself, but again, this one's very highly thought out, and I think it's a little too detailed because these can be really rough in order to just adapt them and fix them up to your liking. And this one's from Gears of War. And this one I think is more of an action violent video game. So it's quite dark. You kind of get a sense for how this video game is going to be, and it looks a little bit on the scary side. And it's kind of dark and hard to see each frame, but again, this is just one example. And then for commercials are different because with commercials, you actually have a problem that you're trying to solve or meet a consumer need. So in this example, pretty much we've got the rising action, we've got the climax of the issue that we're trying to resolve, the falling action, and then the solution, which is where Tide comes into the play and helps the dog do the laundry in this example. And here's another one for Coca-Cola, and they've just got 4 frames here, but they're really nicely thought out, and it just gets the point across. And this one is the last example I'm showing you, and this is actually an app. But of course, apps, you still need to figure out how the user experience is gonna be and how you're gonna sell the product. So it is a commercial, more or less. But in this example, it's just showing how the person is feeling very sad, and this app is going to help impact their life and make them feel better. And at the end, it resolves the problem. So again, you can use storyboards to help you resolve a problem or help you figure out if your product's gonna make a difference for the consumer. So this is my own example that I did for a storybook adventure that I made. And I've just added little text in here. I've done page numbers, and I've showed like where the page is gonna flip. And so I just did from start to finish how each page is gonna look. And then this gives me a clear vision of how I'm gonna flush it out when I actually make it. So this is just the second page. And so again, the benefit of making storyboards is that it gives you a clear vision of how you're going to create your solution or communicate your story. And we can use this whether it's for video games, commercials, movies, or just for fun or animating. So it can really help you as well as other people understand what you're communicating. And so this is just my last example showing a good storyboard versus a bad storyboard. So the one on the left shows clearly what's going on. There's enough frames with some text included, but the one on the right, we really don't have enough context, and there's not enough frames, so we don't really understand what's going on. So those are the examples I'm showing you today. So the design challenge for today is to create one storyboard around the theme being hunger. So you can interpret that in any way you want. You can try to make a video game, you can do a commercial or a movie if that's what you want to do. So you can look at my segment if you want some inspiration. But yeah, just have fun with it. I can't wait to see what you guys create. So ultimately, the main takeaways from today is number one, we can define the story. So once we figure that out, that's the next step we can do into making storyboards and making them really strong so that we can communicate our idea or our solution. And then the second thing is knowing your audience. So knowing if we're making it for kids, adults, seniors, and whether it's for like a video game or a movie or a commercial. And then lastly, the third one is we're making it clear and concise, so we can add little points of notes or script, or if there's going to be music, and that can really help communicate the idea, as well as making it concise so we don't have too many frames, but just enough to get the idea across. So I hope you guys had fun and learned something new about storyboards, and I'll see you soon.